What's going on, everybody? UCF Jaguar back here with GenJag.com, and we are officially in the deadest period of the NFL calendar, as the next 6 weeks there's really not much going on when it comes to NFL news except for potential suspensions with drugs and PEDs, or just players being stupid and committing different kind of criminal offenses. But in this next 6 weeks, it gives me a lot of time to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. And when I look at some of the moves that the Jaguars made, I see one very underrated signing that I think is going to have big impacts on a team, and that is the signing of Seferian-Jenkins. And in this video, I will talk about how this guy could become a potentially elite tight end for the Jaguars in 2018. So let's get it.
Last name ever, first name greatest, like a sprained ankle, boy, ain't nothing to play with.
Now, when you look at some of the tight ends that the Jaguars have had over the last 2+ decades of this team's existence, there really haven't been much elite talent really at that tight end position. Our two best tight ends were Mercedes Lewis, who was on a team for over the last decade. Obviously now this will be his first year off the team in his whole career as he signed on to the Green Bay Packers. And then our second best tight end was probably Kyle Brady. But when you look at other guys that the Jaguars have had on a team, the third and fourth best tight ends might have been George Reister and Pete Mitchell. Two guys that you might not have ever heard of. Now, going into this 2018 offseason, the number one need on a lot of people, between the fans and like certain media members, was the Jaguars need to find a tight end, a go-to receiving threat kind of tight end. And going into free agency, we addressed that with Seferian-Jenkins, but still going into the draft, there was still kind of a need at the tight end position. But once the 2018 draft came about, the value never really met the spot that we were picking at, so we never got a tight end in the draft. So with all that said, that puts even more of an importance on the acquisition of Seferian-Jenkins, and it just puts him in a big position to be able to make a huge impact on the Jaguars this coming up season. Now, Seferian-Jenkins has had kind of a troubled past in the NFL. He was drafted in the second round in a 2014 draft. He played 2 full seasons with the Bucs in 2014 and 2015. Then in 2016, a week or two into the season, he actually got a DUI, and he was basically cut from the Buccaneers, and then later signed on to the Jets. And just really his first 3 years of his career, he was dealing with alcoholism. The guy, he admitted himself that he was kind of an addict when it comes to alcohol. And then in May of 2017, the guy kind of came out and said that he's been completely clean. And 2017, he really had a resurgent career where he had like 50 receptions for the New York Jets. And when I look at his career, I almost take out those first 3 years, just because when you don't give 100% to the game of football and to the NFL, you're not going to be able to do very good. In 2017, he really put a lot into his craft and being a better player, and it's really what led him to have a really good 2017. And I look at this as a player that's really going into his second season healthy, and I think now he is really primed to have a huge year. Now, there's two things that I think Seferian-Jenkins will be able to do really well for our team, and that is basically be able to get your first downs when it comes to getting tough short yardage kind of things. I mean, really just open up the middle of the field. We really didn't have too much of a middle of the field threat last year. I mean, if you look at Mercedes Lewis, he was kind of schemed open a lot when it comes to play action kind of stuff. And, guys like O'Shaughnessy and Ben Koyak, those guys really weren't scaring anybody in the passing game. And now that we have a guy like Seferian-Jenkins, 6'5", 262 pounds, I think he's going to be able to get a lot of tough yardage in short kind of territories. And another big impact I think he's going to have is red zone impact. I mean, Blake Bortles was tremendous in the red zone last year. He was 32 for 60. He threw 18 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. And who did he really have to throw to in the red zone last season? Obviously, your two big bodies were Allen Robinson, who was only good for one catch in 2017 before he tore his ACL. And then you also had Mercedes Lewis, and like I said earlier, he was schemed open a lot where, they would just have really good play calls and the guy would just be wide open. It's not like he was going out there with his athleticism and making people miss. He was just kind of left wide open. And also Seferian-Jenkins is a guy who can run routes and really use his athleticism to be able to get open, and he can make some athletic grabs out there. And I'm just really excited to see kind of how we use the tight end, just because this isn't really a personnel, like a player that we've had in the last several years, especially in the Dave Caldwell regime, that we've really been able to have a lockdown, a really good tight end that we could really make a threat out there. I really think that Seferian-Jenkins can put himself into the elite category of tight ends in the season. And one thing that I don't do on this channel much is really put a player in a category before they really deserve to be in there. But Seferian-Jenkins is one guy that I really feel like will be able to put himself in that elite category and really be like a top 5 tight end in this league, especially with the opportunity that the Jaguars have. Now, we tried to put in a tight end into our offense back in 2015 when we signed Julius Thomas to a ridiculous 5-year, $46 million deal, but obviously he was a bust. He was a clear product of Peyton Manning after he really didn't do much in Jacksonville or in Miami for that matter, even under his old offensive coordinator / head coach in Adam Gase that helped him have that big year. And, when he was over in Denver and earned 2 Pro Bowl appearances. But when it comes to, free agent tight ends this offseason, I kind of wanted either 2 guys. My first guy that I wanted was Seferian-Jenkins, and the second guy that I wanted was Trey Burton. But when you look at kind of the contracts that got handed out, Trey Burton got a 4-year, $32 million deal, while Seferian-Jenkins got a 2-year, $10.5 million deal. So, obviously, Seferian-Jenkins is just, I think the contract is just way, way better. I think you get a lot more value in that. And I just think that Seferian-Jenkins still has his best football ahead of him. If you listen to his interviews, he's a very, very smart dude. I think he really just has his, he's really just put together well. And, I think that he just wants to make the most of his NFL career. And obviously, he overcame a lot when it comes to his addiction. I've never really dealt with addiction personally, but I know a lot of people who have, and it's really not a easy thing to get over. And just seeing that the guy's been sober for well over a year now, I have just a lot of hope, and I have a lot of faith that this guy can really be the X factor in our offense and give us a weapon that we haven't been able to really have for the Jaguars and, under the Dave Caldwell regime, and just a weapon for Blake Bortles. I think he's going to be tremendous when it comes to, giving Bortles a security blanket, a big target to throw to, and just another red zone target. And, I think if you're looking for fantasy tight ends, in a PPR league, he may not get a lot of yardage, but I think he's going to get a lot of receptions and a lot of red zone touchdowns. So yeah, I really think that Seferian-Jenkins is primed for a huge year for the Jaguars, a potential Pro Bowl year, and I just have a lot of faith in this guy to be able to do a lot of things. He was probably my favorite of all our draft picks or of all of our free agent signings. He was probably my favorite one just with the value that you got in him, and very, very excited to see what this guy has to offer in 2018. But yeah, that's kind of my recap of how I feel about Seferian-Jenkins. It's been something I've wanted to address for a little while now, and now that's the off season, kind of the dead period. I'll be able to get a lot of stuff off my chest really before training camp starts and things really get revved up before preseason. So yeah, thank you guys for watching my video. Like the channel if you haven't already. And this is UCF Jaguar with GenJag.com, and I'm out.